Sat Nam, one and all. My name is Do or Do Nada. Please pray for me, a sinner. I will be having a series of YouTube videos on the SATOR ROTAS square. And I thought a good way to start would be on giving one way that I have been amplifying what James Charlesworth believes is the ancient mantra used in connection with the SATOR square. You can find this in his book, The Good and Evil Serpent, in the appendix. So first of all, if you just pull up an image of the SATOR ROTAS square, and I'm just going to read what Charlesworth states in his book. The first word, SATOR, would be a vocative that could be repeated, O Creator, O Creator. Then Asclepius's desired attribute would be lauded in the second person, rotas, you who cause all. Had an interruption there, please excuse the defects of my personality and the technical flaws. I'm just throwing this out here. Don't want to do it again. So Charlesworth states, okay, the first word SATOR would be a vocative that could be repeated, O Creator, O Creator. Okay, first of all, note that the word SATOR, he's translating as creator. All right, if we do literal sound shifting, S can stay the S, the T becomes a D, and R stays R. We have seeder, the one who seeds. So we can see the word seed in that sat portion of the word. He's saying, O Creator, O Creator. All right, then he follows that by SATOR ROTAS. That's the first line of his prayer. And rotas is SATOR backwards. And he continues. Then Asclepius's desired attribute would be lauded in the second person, rotas, you who cause all, in parentheses, to rotate. All right, so rotas can be a verb which means causing to rotate. It can also just be the plural for wheels. So when we're doing this recitation, we can have whatever associations we particularly like. I particularly like viewing the SATOR square as always being a complementary balance of the masculine and feminine, God and goddesses, and into non-duality. And so with the rotas, we have also a feminine image. As we know, Taiki or Lakshmi or the goddess of fate, you know, the wheels are her symbol. So we have a consort feminine for the masculine cedar. We could actually even read rotas as Rhoda, the consort of Helios, or Radha, the consort of Krishna. I'm going to continue on to his next line of the prayer, which is OPERA-AREPO. He writes, the promise of the petitioner seems represented by OPERA-AREPO. With effort, I crawl toward you, in brackets. All right, so he's using opera as with effort and arepo as crawling. And that's perfectly fine. He's being very literal in his Latin reading. We can be much more playful about all this stuff. Again, whatever resonates with you. So for arepo, if we wanted, we can see so many deity names there. We can find Serapis, Harpocrates. If we just take the word are and po, Ari is lion, fo is light. So we have lion of light. We could read it with the S that connects the A as Sarah, Po, and then back to the S, Serapos, so Serapis. We can read it as invoking the plowman, because Arepo refers to plowing. So however you want to visualize Arepo, it's fine. Opera, again, it can mean with effort. It can also mean works, the plural of ops. So ops is, of course, the consort of Saturn. So we can envision the many gopis of the original Cedar with opera. You can have this plurality of feminine dynamic working energy, and visualize that as Apollo's muses or Krishna's gopis. Can do that as well. All right, and then he's going to conclude with the fourfold tenes, and this is how he explains that. Finally, the mantra would conclude with the request tene, 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 which is written in the cryptograph, as it were, north to south. You see the cross, the tene cross in the square. North to south, east to west, south to north, and west to east. That would mean maintain, as in brackets, the rotations from the north, the east, the south, and the west. Thus, the square would replicate the cosmology of the four corners. The invocation is strikingly similar to others, often connected with serpent mythology. Okay, and so there is tons of serpent imagery embedded in the square, which I'll touch upon later, much more than he brings out in his book. It's filled with fiery serpents. So that's his educated guess on how people in the ancient cult of Asclepius would use the Sator Square as a prayer form, saying SATOR ROTAS, OPERA-AREPO, TENET, 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 TENET. And he has the insight to actually call it a mantra. And so anytime we have a mantra, well, we just take the tantric view. All these are connected. We have a mandala. Well, the mandala is the Sator Square. All right, so that's the mandala form of the deity. We have the square. Then we have this mantra, which is prayer form that each line is a palindrome, invoking the polarity of the masculine and feminine forces that hold the universe together, and we're invoking them to hold us. All right, and so whenever we have mantra and mandalas, you're also going to find mudras, and this would be common in mysticism, east and west. There's going to be body movements involved with mantras, and you can be playful with these and see what works for you. I'm just going to throw out some associations I've made. So, of course, the square is, power of 5 by 5 magic square. In our hands, we have 5 fingers representing the 5 elements: earth, air, fire, water, ether, or however you want to call them. And the square is all about cycles, cycles of sustenance. So if we take our right hand, extend the 5 fingers out, and make a loop starting at our head and go in front and behind to the top, and then close all the fingers. And then we take our left, and while we do that, we say SATOR ROTAS. And then we do the horizontal circling for the OPERA-AREPO. OPERA-AREPO. All right, and then for the TENET, 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 if we take our hands and we cross them, have them out folded, and we drop them. We're going to drop them to our lap. And when we say TENET, we're going to take our hand and make a fist. And you can make a fist any way you want. I kind of like this method of putting the thumb in the middle to make it like symmetrical and It's all about balance, this Sator square. So we cross our arms, drop them to our lap. And when we say tene, we close and make a fist, and with the right, and close, make a fist, left, tene, tene. And we come up to the top of our head, and again, we have our hands outstretched, and then say tene, make a fist, tene, make a fist. And then we have, we have these crosses guarding us and these circles of protection around us. Hope that makes sense. Again, you can play with what works for you. The final thing that Charlesworth doesn't link, and this is always going to be linked, and you got a mandala, you got a mudra, you got visualizations. You're going to have a bija syllable. So you might say, well, what's the bija here? Well, we have the three vowels, A, E, O, in the square. I'll kind of show you here. See if we can see this. So my suggestion is to take the aeon and to make that into the seed syllable or the bija. Every mantra is going to have a bija, and so we can make it A, E, O, Un. You can play with it whatever you want, but we have these vowels. So these vowels contain, these three vowels contain all the vowel sounds, and if you want to extend them to make it more, but this A, E, O, Un, which you can see in the square, see how these vowel powers are in the square. So in my reading, that is related to the bija seed syllable of the Sator. So we have the A-E-O-Un. And so my suggestion to add a mudra, at the closing of his prayer, after we've done prayer, we want to add the bija. We can use a tantric technique, and we can make the lotus bud prayer hand mudra and drop it down onto our lap, on our hara, pointing down to the root chakra, and we can say Aeon, and we can raise it to our heart and do Aeon. And then there's a tantric technique to take this and put it behind our back, touching the spine at the heart level. So we still have this prayer, lotus bud, hands behind our back. If it's more comfortable for you to point it down, that's perfectly fine. I actually prefer to do it that way, but the orthodox way is to make it up. I actually like putting it down to have balance. So we have two upraised prayer hands and two down. But anyway, so for the third Aeon, we have at our heart level on our back. And then the final one is up on our crown, Aeon. Okay, so that's my riffing and amplifying on James Charlesworth's take on how the ancient people used a palindrome prayer form. So, Sat Nam, one and all, pray for me, a sinner. Till next time.